Welcome back.
Hello.
Chapter 11. This is my favorite number. It's my lucky number, Britt. Do you know that?
I remember that now. Mm-hmm. You've told
11.
me a couple times. 11,
I should
11.
tell you 11 times.
Ha
All
Ooh,
right.
okay, so
Promoting healthy behavior.
promoting healthy behavior. So he really talked about like what does autonomy look like when we're in the medical setting, like doctors
When
and
we do the thing
yeah.
in a health conscious way.
Which was really it was a really interesting perspective on autonomy because for all of the other contexts that we think about autonomy in, like the workplace and schools, it's never like life or death, right? But in medicine, getting someone to take their medication, that is life or death. Yeah, or being able to quit smoking is life or death for some people. Like, so the need, maybe it just seems more urgent, more tangible when we talk about it in the medical context. So it was really interesting to read this chapter. Okay, summary. I'm going first, right?
Summary time. Yeah, I'm looking at my timer going. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
That was not a very confident yes. All 5 seconds that lasted for did not exude confidence.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
All right, here we go.
All right, so in this chapter, DC and Richard really looked at the risky behaviors and activities that people partake in, and they struggle to stop, and how that risky behavior, it isn't like it's a secret. They are aware of the risk, yet they do it anyway. And that goes against nature and the programming of the brain to keep itself alive. So DC asked, like, why are certain humans going against their survival instinct and partaking in these behaviors like smoking and drinking, unprotected risk-taking sex, not taking their meds how they should be? Why are they doing that? And they found that these behaviors often have a deeper psychological root. And in studying patients and doctors, they found that autonomy supportive strategies are the most effective to long-term cessation of the self-destructive behavior. Autonomy supportive doctors also have more patients that follow the medical advice and take their medication as prescribed. And I want to just take the last 20 seconds to make a quick association between these risky behaviors that are happening out in the world that go against survival programming and the maladaptive behaviors in the classroom, because both have psychological roots. And just like punishing or rewarding isn't going to stop somebody from smoking, punishing and rewarding is not going to stop your student from being aggressive in the classroom or constantly talking.
Yeah. Drop mic.
Boom.
There it goes.
All right.
I love it.
You ready?
I want to ditto that one though. Okay.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's go.
Chapter 11 talked all about promoting healthy behavior and what it looks like to change behavior that is more maladaptive in nature and self-destructive in nature, like Brittany was saying. Like when you have people who are smoking or engaging in these risky behaviors that they know ultimately is not good, yet they do it anyways, and how healthcare providers can use autonomy to get people to change and to, I guess, lead them to the point where they want to change for themselves and where they can create an environment that lends itself to change, because ultimately, like, a person has to make a decision to change for themselves, but we have a lot of control over the kind of environment that we create for people being in a position as teachers. And so it's our responsibility to use autonomy to support people in being the best version of themselves. And I'm going to stop there.
All right.
See, it's funny because I feel like I have to keep it more surface level and I finish early.
Mhm.
Or if I try to like hit upon all different things, like I'm scrambling at the end. There's no in between for me, it doesn't seem.
See, and we were just talking about like how we balance each other out. So I'm like, I can't make a 5-minute anything, because what am I going to be able to teach in 5 minutes? You have to have all the information, and all the information is important.
I know. Like, everything needs to be capitalized.
Everything's important.
That was Brittany and I in the village, because in the village we have these minis, which are like these little digestible videos that you can watch like on your lunch break or something. And so when we merged Brittany's resources into the village, I was like, yeah, so the minis are like 5 minutes. And she was like, what? How do you do that? But you did it. You made your first mini.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I found out that I really like it. And it's going to help me. Yeah. It's going to help me be able to prioritize the information and make it so that it's more consumable. Because if the information isn't consumable, that means it's not accessible, and the information can be out there, but nobody's accessing it. So what's the point of the information, right? Like,
exactly.
So it was a good exercise.
Yeah. What was your
and
mini
now
about?
I enjoy it. So this is actually really good to talk about here. All of the minis that I create, they're 3 to 5 minute videos that just dive deeper into something in the chapter. So they align with the podcast. So the minis that I'm making right now are heavily on like, what can we do to be more autonomy supportive? How can we seek out autonomy for ourselves? And they usually have a neurodivergent twist, and they always include like pretty good action steps that you could take like tomorrow. So they're very usable and useful. And if you want more information on the village, we will link it. Well, it's going to be linked, but definitely check it out. It's our online community platform.
In the description box. Awesome. So let's start off by, I guess, even talking about these, I don't know if I call them maladaptive behaviors, but like the self-sabotaging behaviors that we see here, right? Like the smoking, for example. Like, people know that that's not good for them, but they do it anyways. Why is that?
Well, I think it could be stress. Well, it's stress relieving, right? Because it gives you that like initial high.
Yeah.
And then you have the addiction component. Then you also have the sensory component. The act of sucking in, the feeling of it in your lungs, the mouth to hand habit that happens. It's a very sensory experience. But you can't force somebody to quit smoking without considering all of the influencers, like all of those things. And when we use rewards and punishments, we don't. When we use coercive or controlling tactics, we don't consider all of those things. And that's why those methods aren't getting the results that teachers need them to get in order to do their jobs.
One of the experiments that he mentioned here, like the studies, was only 10% effective, right? For smoking.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about before the podcast started.
Yeah, a smoking cessation, and this is on 161, a smoking cessation program is considered successful if 10% of the participants are able to maintain long-term abstinence. And this isn't the only book that I've read that mentions or is about
Yeah.
self-determination theory, which is the 3 psychological needs and how they influence intrinsic motivation. Robert Cialdini's books, which he is big in the self-growth space and business owner space.
Mhm.
Cal Newport, which is he wrote Deep Work and How to Be So Good That They Can't Ignore You. Same thing, focuses on self-determination theory. And even on habits, the books that I've read about habits, they all mention the smoking cessation programs and weight loss programs and
Mhm.
alcohol addiction
Yeah.
rehab programs and how they're ineffective unless they consider the psychological needs. And that really did have a huge impact on like, okay, this is why I wrote my thesis in grad school on self-determination and teacher retention. And it was partially because like I just kept seeing it everywhere. I can't
Yeah.
believe it's not more in schools.
I
Like it blows
know.
my mind.
It's really crazy. Like, this is not new. What we're
No,
talking, this is not groundbreaking news.
no. The book was published in 1995.
Like,
I mean,
self-determination theory could have given birth to me.
mhm, right? Like,
It's not that old or not that young.
yeah,
Okay.
like it's crazy.
Yeah, because
Oh,
like these behaviors that people engage in, like smoking, abusing alcohol, they serve a purpose, right? Like the book says.
a psychological root.
Yeah, everything's got a root. So, what can we do to change the environment to make it more autonomy supportive so that people will be able to change their behaviors? What can we do?
So in the chapter, he looks at the biopsychosocial approach, which the biopsychosocial approach was born out of the medical field's necessary um, self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
How we're doing something wrong. People aren't taking their meds. People
Yeah.
aren't taking their doctor's advice. We have a crisis on our hands. How do we get our patients to listen to us? Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, like how do we get our patients to take their medication and just be more healthy? And they found that this biopsychosocial approach that considers all of the psychological, neurological, environmental factors of a situation and then shapes the doctor's response and interaction with the patient, that gets the patients to ask more questions, be more receptive, actually take their medication as prescribed.
Yeah.
And that's why this is in the chapter. So he says on page 171, a lot of the motivational reasons behind harmful behaviors suggests that a lack of psychological needs and a lack of autonomy lead people to engage in the risky behavior, right? So we have to better understand those motivational reasons and we have to meet their autonomy needs. He says high risk behaviors such as overeating, smoking, abusing alcohol, eating unhealthy foods, taking foolish risks behind the wheel, having unprotected casual sex, and playing with firearms, for example, have motivational underpinnings. They are psychologically and socially determined. Friends are doing it, so you can't refuse. Your vulnerable ego pushes you to do it. Your inner turmoil seems too great to bear, and the behavior distracts you from that turmoil. Authorities have warned against it, so the tendency to defy those controls, makes you want to do it. Each of these motivational reasons suggests that when people are less autonomous, that is when they are more controlled. They are more likely to engage in the behaviors that promote ill-being. So if we're going to be, if we're going to be able to like really address all of those motivations, all of those psychological reasons, then we have to understand them, which means that we have to perspective take. We have to make sure that we are fully understanding all of the issues, and then providing the person with all of the relevant information that they need, so they have a good understanding of why all of those psychological reasons, why are they happening? And two, so that when the time comes, they can make a really informed and meaningful decision or choice. We have to make sure that we're giving rationale for suggestions or requests, acknowledging how hard it is to accept something, especially if it's like an addictive behavior. Like you have to, and minimize the use of controlling language and attitudes, and offering choice. So all of those features are associated with the biopsychosocial medical approach. And they have led to patients receiving better care, asking better questions, being receptive of the doctors, taking their medicine as prescribed, just living overall healthier lives.
So do them.
Yeah, right. And so all of those, that approach, okay, has these great benefits. And we can take that approach, that biopsychosocial approach, and apply it to the classroom. And the kicker is that biopsychosocial approach is like parallel to autonomy supportive. And that's why he brought it up. He's like, oh, reading this biopsychosocial approach that has like such great outcomes. And then he's like, wait, well, this is exactly on autonomy supportive. I've been saying this. Like,
yeah, that's what I've been saying. So now I know in our last episode, we mentioned that admin struggle with this, just like teachers do. What can admin do to support teachers who don't really seem to care about being autonomy supportive?
Well, I want to hear your take on it, because I am autonomy oriented, and I always have been. You were a more controlling oriented teacher when you first started.
I like how you said controlling twice there.
Controlling. So what advice would you give as a prior controlling oriented teacher? What does admin need to think about?
Well, I don't know if it's just necessarily advice from experience, much as even from this book. My quote, it's going to be all about perspective taking, right? I'll read it right now, and then I'll flow into this. But being a good parent, a good teacher, a good manager, or a good healthcare provider all have something in common, namely an autonomy supportive interpersonal style. Indeed, being successful in any one-up position as it relates to the performance, development, and well-being of people in a one-down position begins with an autonomy supportive interpersonal style. It begins with listening openly so you can understand the situation from the other's perspective, page 176. And I would say trying to understand their situation from their perspective. Because if you have teachers who are stuck in that control vortex, they probably are not as happy. Things might look calm, their classrooms might run smoothly, but they might not be as fulfilled or may not be feeling as peaceful as they might hope. So to take their perspective first and figure out why they're doing it and what result it's giving them, because like we know from the beginning of this podcast, we engage in these behaviors because they serve a purpose, right? So figure out what purpose the control or the lack of adoption of autonomy is serving and go from there. What would you say?
I would say that I want to piggyback off what you said, taking the perspective and getting to the root. And typically, what we see when we look at controlling oriented teachers, at controlling oriented managers, controlling oriented doctors, is that they feel a lot of pressure and they feel a lot of control. So the first thing that we could do is ask, well, actually, honestly, my first thing is always how regulated is the individual? Like, is the
Right.
individual experiencing chronic stress? Because if that individual is chronic stress in the experiencing chronic stress, they aren't going to be able to regulate. They're not going to be able to access prefrontal cortex, decision making, rationalizing, organizing. So
Yeah.
we've got to make sure that the teachers are regulated and they understand how to regulate themselves. Then we can move into providing them the autonomy support that they need. And I think what would have helped with your situation from how we've talked about it in the past is if the principal would have been like, you don't have to feel this pressured. You don't have to feel like, their behavior is a reflection of who you are or how good you are as a teacher. And just alleviate that stress, because that stress is feeding into the issue. That feeling, that pressure, that feeling of being controlled. And as admin, we have to understand, I'm saying we, I was never an admin. Now I just train and work with admin.
Now we work with admin.
Yeah. So admin, they have to understand that being controlling is a stress response.
Yeah.
Controlling the environment is a stress response. And I talk about that all the time with teachers, especially for neurodivergent students, because a lot of neurodivergent students will seek to control their environment. It's a fight or flight response. It's a fear response. And I think that's exactly not. I know. Like we have the research. Like control begets control.
And I also want to say too, on that same note, that we have to think about who we're using as our exemplars and our models. Because you might say, like, you'll need to control the students and do all these different things. But if the teachers that you're saying are the example or the model we should follow are the ones that seem like they're doing that, then your math is saying one thing, but your actions are saying another.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to highlight that process of the growth of the autonomy supportive environment. And it might be a bit messy to start because we're figuring things out, but it's the long game that we're playing. And like one of the schools I'm working with right now, I was talking to the principal. Like, we're not building kids to just do well on their state test in April, right? We're building kids who are healthy when they graduate high school, who become productive and pro-social members of society when they're 25, right?
Yes.
And they're going to do well on their test by default.
Right.
But like we're playing the long game here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in education, we get so hyperfixated on the short game. And we see, well, that classroom is obedient, so they're going to listen to the teacher. Versus that one is trying to figure out autonomy, supportive environments, and language. It's like we have a bit less patience sometimes for that process. Mm-hmm. But it takes time, especially if you are surrounded by these coercive environments.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
And we really have to ask what are the consequences societally from raising a generation that is dysregulated.
Well, I think you
By
could see
not-
it.
Yeah,
Turn on
by-
the news.
right. But so this is going to be my takeaway, is we have to ask ourselves, what are the consequences of a society that is of a generation that is dysregulated when they are not controlled? Because that's what happens. If
Yeah.
you exist in a controlling environment, when you're not in a controlling environment, you experience dysregulation. You need somebody to tell you exactly what to do. You are afraid that if you step out of the line or do the wrong thing, you're going to get in trouble. So everything that you do, how you behave, it needs parameters that somebody else set, because you're so focused on, what if I do this wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there are big societal consequences to that. One being fascism.
Yes.
So, ooh, okay.
Fascism, woohoo!
I don't know how else to, like, this is where we're at. Like,
Yes.
So what's your takeaway?
Mine is the last sentence of the chapter. It begins with listening openly so you can understand the situation from the other's perspective. Open listening, perspective taking. We need more of that. So we have to be more of that.
Yeah, model that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Awesome. Another episode in the books.
Yeah, season 3.
Season 3, we got 2 more. 2 more
Yeah.
chapters.
2 more chapters. We do.
So we will be back with you guys next week for chapter 12, being autonomous amidst the controls. And in the meantime, we hope this podcast leaves you feeling remoralized
And re-energized.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.